Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
You guys up for a toga party?
Toga! Toga!
I think I like the idea, Hoop.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Take your sticking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
You talking to me? Louie, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Hey, Sarah! Hey, Sarah!
Okay. Welcome to Classic Movie Night with your hosts, Anna and Sean Allen. Tonight's episode, the 1991 movie Father of the Bride, starring Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Kimberly Williams, and Martin Short. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
How you doing?
I feel very awkward at the moment.
It's been a while. Yeah, we are doing our first podcast in a while, but our very first video companion to that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
right, for YouTube, right?
Yeah, for YouTube. I basically have been starting to do some stuff on my YouTube, and I've posted a few things on our feed with that stuff, and we thought, hey, why not try to do a video companion?
Right.
You'll be good.
Right. And hopefully we won't push the cat button anymore because the cat's right here, but the mics are on our shirt, so.
Yeah, we should be good. But anyway, so what's been up with us? Update time. I mean, it's been, since we've done a podcast, a classic movie night, it's been about 6 months.
Right. We've had a pretty intense year this year. So things got busy and crazy and we got tired and we've had a lot going on. But the biggest new thing is that we are moving.
Yes.
In a month.
We are moving. We currently live basically in Portland, and we're going to be moving out to the coast.
Right.
Which is about 120-ish miles away. Not too far, but
it's a couple-hour drive.
Yeah. Good move for us.
Far enough that my mom was like, what? Even though she already lives far away.
Yeah. Yeah, I work from home, so my job gave us a thumbs up on everything.
Right.
For my end of it, at least. And Owen's school, they got programs out there for him, and everything's just kind of falling in line perfect for it. So we're like, do it.
Yeah. It's going to be good.
I mean, it might actually be, once we get moved and settled and stuff, we'll have like a more dedicated office space than we have now, this is basically like a corner of our bedroom.
Right.
And so once we get that all set up and stuff, I could potentially have a better setup for all of this kind of stuff too.
It'll be in an attic.
Potentially.
Or a garage.
It's a fair size attic.
I just realized we can't put you in the garage because if we podcast in the garage, Owen's going to be in the house all by himself.
Well, we got the monitor. We don't podcast. We podcast
I don't know
when
if the
he's
monitor
sleeping
will
anyway.
go that far or not.
We'll figure out those things later.
Okay.
But basically, we'll have a dedicated spot for it regardless.
Yes, we will.
So that could be good.
Either an attic or a garage.
Either an attic or a garage. But I got plans.
They're both bigger spaces.
I got some plans to kind of dress it up a little bit so that
they can be.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
Made really nice. Oh, that's my alarm.
Do you need to take your?
Yeah.
Medicine time.
Don't say it like that.
Cut. So is there anything else? Any other updates? I mean, like I said, it's been 6 months. We've just been dealing with a bunch of life.
Yeah.
Last 6 months, you know. This stuff that's been kind of holding us back from podcasting, basically.
Things have been stressful, but we're going to be better.
I'm going to try to get back into it.
Yeah.
Our goal, I think what we kind of mentioned, our goal before, is to at least try to do one every couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do at least a weekly video on my YouTube, which there'll be a link in this description for that if you want to follow us there and watch us there.
Mm-hmm.
So This could be some more stuff. We're just trying to have fun with it. That's the most important thing. Not take it too seriously. Have fun with it, and
do it when we can.
yeah,
Right now.
I mean,
we're honestly today like just getting over the flu that I've had now for over a week.
Yeah, Anna and Owen got hit with the flu pretty hard. It was pretty mild for me. It wasn't. It was just a regular flu, but it hit them pretty hard. I mean, next month there might be a week or two. I mean, we might have another little break because we're going to be moving. But we'll figure all that stuff out then. Anyway, we jump into this.
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride.
Before we do that, I just wanted to mention that Sean got me Hogwarts Legacy for Christmas. He pre-ordered it for me, and the game was like barely on my radar before he bought it for me, but now I'm in like full Harry Potter mode. So yeah, been like watching all the movies and all the Fantastic Beasts movies, and just like I'm totally in that world right now.
Yeah.
And we're moving to the coast, which is also kind of magical.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess now it's time for movie wiki stuff.
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride is a 1991 American romantic comedy starring Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Kimberly Williams, this was her film debut, George Newbern, Martin Short, D.D. Wong, and Aaron Culkin. Do you realize that? Culkin was in it?
Yeah.
It is a remake of the 1950 film of the same name, and Martin portrays George Banks, a businessman and owner of an athletic shoe company called Sidekicks.
His name is George Banks. Isn't that the same name of the dad in Mary Poppins?
Sounds familiar.
I think it's the same.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I don't remember the dad's name, to be honest. But they are the Banks family, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, the basic premise of the movie is he finds out his daughter is getting married and he panics. This movie has a 70% Rotten Tomato score. The film drew $15 million in its debut. It grossed $89.3 million in the United States and Canada and $40 million internationally, for a worldwide gross of $129 million on only a $20 million budget. Pretty big hit in today's standards. I mean, in 91, that was
a big movie.
It's good stuff.
Well, Steve Martin and Martin Short always make a great team.
Still teaming up to this day.
Mm-hmm. I always thought that their special together should have been called the Steve Martin Short. I feel like they missed out on that.
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
But then Steve gets full name.
So does Martin Short.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Clever.
It should have been called the Steve Martin Short when they did their special.
Nice.
But bad writing, I guess. They just didn't have it.
They just don't have it.
They need to hire me.
Yeah. But yeah, do you have any trivia? Did you do any homework for trivia?
Oh my god, I did not even. I don't even know where my phone is. You want to look up some trivia?
And now it's time for trivia.
So I haven't read these yet, so bear with me. Kimberly Williams Parsley and George Newbern were filmed in a series of Hallmark card commercials as a couple.
Is that's the one that played the bride and the groom?
Probably. You usually have the page up with all the people.
Oh, touche.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easier to talk about it. George's middle name, Stanley, is named after Spencer Tracy's character in the original Father of the Bride. Actor Eugene Levy appears in both this movie and Father of the Bride Part 2, but as different characters in each. I noticed that when I was watching them.
Nice.
He also works with Steve Martin in Cheaper by the Dozen too, which I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Steve Martin was in Cheaper by the Dozen, but maybe he's only in the second one also. When George and Nina Banks are eliminating who will be invited to the wedding, among the names they mention are Steve and Stephanie Tyrell. Steve Tyrell did several of the songs in this film and also in the sequel.
That's fun.
I feel like these are not that interesting compared to other movies that we've done.
Nothing that great.
George Banks says that he doesn't want the wedding to bankrupt him, so he'll end up wandering the streets in a bathrobe.
Mm-hmm.
This happens to Steve Martin's character, Navin Johnson, in The Jerk. So that's a reference to that, probably. That's funny.
Jerk is such a wild movie.
Yeah. Eugene Levy and Martin Short, who appear together in this movie, as well as Father of the Bride Part 2, both attended Westdale Secondary School in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I feel like these trivias are really reaching right now.
This is very basic information.
Yeah.
Shall we move on then?
This one could be good. It's kind of longer. I'll do one more.
Trivia.
Annie reacts in horror at her father's suggestion of a barbecue picnic wedding reception, opting instead for a more elegant event. In real life, Williams Paisley's wedding reception was much more casual than that of Annie's. It actually was more of a down-home barbecue picnic. The actress married country singer Brad Paisley in 2003, about 12 years after the release of this film. That's kind of cool.
That's cool.
In the scene where George is flipping out in the supermarket about hot dog buns, he claims he wants to buy 8 hot dogs and 8 hot dog buns. He then proceeds to remove 4 buns from 3 bags of 12. This implies that he wants to buy 24 hot dog buns. If he had only kept the buns in the bags and bought 2, he actually would have gotten 24 and saved money at the same time. Yeah, these are just kind of like, meh. I feel like people are really trying here.
And that's it for trivia. Okay.
Oh, wait. This is cute, though. The flower girls at the wedding were daughters of the writer and director Nancy Myers and Charles Shire. That's cute.
And that's it for trivia.
Yeah, it is. That was the most lame trivia we've ever done.
Greatest.
There's 0 important facts about this movie. Yeah.
And here's another fun fact. I watched this movie about, a month ago now?
Mm-hmm.
And you watched this movie, a couple months ago?
I feel like it's been a while.
A month and a half, 2 months ago, maybe? Usually when we have that kind of gap between watching the movie and doing the podcast, we struggle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So bear with us. I took very mediocre to poor notes.
We also forgot to mention at the beginning that I had never seen this movie, and you had.
Yeah, and we did do just a quick little side note. We did do a little curveball because originally we were going to finish up some Buster Keaton stuff, but it just wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
We just, our interest level was basically nothing with that.
Well,
for now, we just
lost interest. Yeah, we watched a lot, and then we were like,
So Anna was like, "Hey, I'm gonna watch Father of the Bride." I'm like, "Hey, good opportunity to jump back into the podcast."
Mm-hmm.
So here we are, and let's try to go through this thing, right?
Okay.
We open on the aftermath of a wedding reception. Steve Martin is sitting in a chair talking to the camera. He's the narrator.
Right.
So there's a bit of like, we kind of jump, we start off at the end of the wedding, basically at the end of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
really, if you think about it. And then he starts talking about his daughter's wedding and how he spent more on the wedding than their house.
Mm-hmm. I actually did go on to watch the second movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
And
I liked them both.
yeah, and then, I mean, he's narrating the entire intro. This is where we're introduced. He jumps back in time from before the wedding. and we're introduced to his work, the Sidekicks factory.
After the reception, too, he looks tired
Oh yeah.
and sad.
Oh yeah.
Like in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you don't really know why, but you find out why in the end. And in the end, you know, in the beginning, you think it's because he just spent so much on this wedding. But the real reason he's sad in that moment is because he never got to say goodbye to his daughter. He never got to congratulate her at her wedding.
Mm-hmm.
He never got to see her after the ceremony.
Which we get. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that is why he's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, and then my next note is cool car. Apparently we're watching him drive home in his cool little convertible. Right?
Yeah, he does have a cool car.
His daughter's home. She comes home, she's still in school or
She's in college.
yeah, she's still in college.
Yeah.
She's coming home to visit.
And his wife warns him that she's changed.
Yeah.
And he's like, changed how?
But I'll tell you what, George has some really cool stuff planned for them. He starts being like, we're going to go do this, we're going to go do that. I got tickets to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I forget if they're at dinner or if they're at a meal or something, but this is when she tells him that she's met somebody.
Not only has she met somebody, but they're getting married.
Yeah.
She's literally like, I have a fiance that you've never met.
And George does not look too happy about this news.
It's so cute in that part when she says that she's getting married and she turns back into a little girl.
Oh yeah,
like right in front
like
of his
envisions
face.
her like
she's like literally a little 7-year-old going, "I'm getting married, Daddy." It's adorable.
Yeah, and then she goes on and explains everything. Her and the mom are kind of talking, and George is kind of like seeing her as the little kid, and he's progressively, you can kind of see him though, like looking kind of angry and stuff, and he just blurts out how this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wife is, George! And then the daughter gets up, she's upset, she goes up to her room, and my next note is he did not handle this particularly well.
No, and he knows he didn't. Yeah. So he goes to talk to her because she's sad and outside.
It's time to talk to her and play some basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where we get the I Got Sunshine song.
I really liked that like 90s, the dad and daughter play basketball together thing. That was pretty cute. It felt very 90s and very just like they're just in the driveway. It's very relaxed.
I think the song helps with that too.
It was really sweet.
Yeah.
And I also felt bad for the son though, because he's pretty much ignored the whole movie.
I mean, he's around.
Her little brother is just like there.
Yeah.
That's all he does. The Culkin.
The Culkin.
Kieran? Is that his name?
Yeah. Culkin. Yeah, I made a note of how there was a lot of fouling during the game 1-on-1.
Was there?
There was a lot of fouling going on.
I didn't notice.
And then my next note is the fiancé is there. He arrives.
Yeah.
And he's wearing Nikes.
He has a suit and tie and he's wearing Nikes.
One of the first things George notices is
I thought it was so funny when he's like, Nikes. Also, awesome 90s product placement right there. But I always see Nikes and there's a part of me that's like, because they're in Portland.
Yeah, the world headquarters is in Beaverton.
Yeah.
Right outside of Portland.
Yeah, so I'm always like, those are our shoes.
Those are our shoes, I wish.
Even though, actually, I have a pair of Nikes.
Yeah. You too? And Adidas.
You have Adidas?
I have Adidas too. I like them. And then there's a long conversation, and my next note is going for a drive. I think George.
Well, the long conversation is important because the soon-to-be son-in-law tells them how much he cares about their daughter, and like the speech that he gives to them is really nice.
Yeah, but George is still, he's almost really not hearing it.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, who's this guy think?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But both the girls, after he talks, they're like crying and they go hug him and stuff, and George is just like, hate you.
And then I'm getting George.
Because he's taking his little girl away. That's how he feels.
Okay, so this is the part where the daughter and the fiance are going to go for a drive, and then this is where George says, "Don't forget to fasten your condom."
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was a real about time moment where it'd be like, "Okay, I'll be right back," and then you go in the closet and like hold your breath for a second and redo that. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a funny moment. And a conversation. So then George and Nina are having a conversation, like in the kitchen, about everything that's going on. And then I think, is this where we get the title card? Because then I put "Father of the Bride" in all capitals. Was it? I don't know if
that seems like a weird note to take.
Yeah, all capital letters is "Father of the Bride." Or maybe, I don't know, it don't matter. But that was just a note I had in there. And meeting the in-laws. Of course, they have the biggest house on the block.
Right. Which I think is nice.
George is kind of like, he's basically trying to find anything wrong with everybody involved with that family. Anyway, they go in. There's a whole...
The important thing about this part is that he goes snooping around their house.
Yeah, there's a whole cheers moment. Like, they're like cheersing, right? And he's kind of like... the dad gives like a super emotional... Like, at first, he's like... The dad's saying stuff that George agrees with. The fiance's dad. And then it's like... George's like, yeah. And then he starts getting kind of sentimental, too. He was on my side for a minute. But... And then, George excuses himself to go use the bathroom. And this is when he starts snooping around, because apparently the bathroom is like connected to... It almost looked like it's in the same room
as the office. Yeah.
Like, not even like there's a door. It was weird, kind of a weird looking setup, if I remember right.
It's just a big house.
Yeah.
But he does end up in the office and he starts snooping through desk drawers, which is like... I don't know if I would do that. I mean... Maybe I would.
Well, he starts in the medicine cabinet.
Right.
And then he moves out to the desk drawers.
But all the medicine was pretty normal, right?
And then...
Didn't he take something?
I don't think so.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. And then the dogs show up.
Right.
He panics and climbs out the back balcony.
Out the window. He's swinging in front of the window.
And then there's some outside shenanigans going on between him and the dogs, basically.
Yeah, and then they knock him into the pool.
He gets out and he's basically looking to find a way back in, and then Nina sees him outside.
He also stole a book. He stole a pocketbook from the desk.
It's like a pocketbook.
He's trying to get it because it got knocked out the window before him. So that's why he climbed out the window to get the pocketbook, which then lands in the pool. And he tries to get out of the pool, but the dogs push him in. And then he literally took a swim with the pocketbook at their house.
It's funny because I made a note. How did the dogs even get outside? They were upstairs in the steady.
I'm sure they have a doggy door.
A lot of doggy doors throughout the whole house.
It's a mansion.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking those dogs outside. They just let them out. They got like a regular guy who comes by and picks up the poop every now and then.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then we cut to a dinner where I think this is just another one at their house, right? Just a regular dinner at their house.
Right, with the daughter?
It's just where, and then they're kind of talking about things, and then the daughter's kind of like, oh, I was thinking about having it here. And then he starts envisioning what it'd be like in their backyard. And he's like grilling hot dogs, and it's basically just like a very busy backyard barbecue looking thing in his head. He's having visions at the reception there.
Right, their wedding, he basically wants to be like a potluck.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Exactly. Anyway, so that goes on for a little bit, and then it cuts to them meeting the wedding coordinator. Which
is my favorite. I freaking love Martin Short in everything he does.
This is where we meet.
But as Franck...
this is where we meet Franck.
I wanted to say it first. He's honestly like so great as that character. It made me so happy. I was just smiling the whole time. Every time he was on the screen, I was like, like,
Yeah.
so happy.
Plays that character pretty great. And George cannot understand a word that he's saying.
Which is also hilarious.
And they're basically having to translate for him.
Yeah, he's very French. He has a very French accent.
Yeah. And then jumps to the cake, like they're going cake selection, looking at cakes and stuff, and then he hears the price of how much the cake is.
Wasn't it like $20,000 or something?
It was pretty ridiculous. I don't think it was that much.
Or like
but
12,000. It was a lot.
It was pretty ridiculous. And then Franck, welcome to the 90s.
Yeah.
I thought this was weird because they're talking about this stuff, and then and Annie was just like, you guys decide.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she puts a lot of stuff in her parents' hands for her wedding, which I found a little, like, that's a little unbelievable to me.
I feel like she's trying, she sees her dad struggling with the price, and she's just trying to make it easier.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah. But I feel like that this happened a couple times.
Yeah,
where she's kind of like, you guys just...
But she's worried about the money, you know, like, we see later she's asleep on the couch with the magazine about, like, how to save money because of her dad freaking out at everything.
Yeah.
And then he decides to just tone it down. So, like, it is the money. Like, she just is like, you guys decide because I feel bad. Like, that's a hard situation to be in when you're a 20-year-old kid and you're getting married and you feel like your parents are doing everything for you.
I guess she is only 20.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they're in the wedding planner's place for a little bit longer. They start talking about the theme of the wedding and stuff, and that goes on for a minute. But then we cut back to the shoe factory. A little time has passed, not much, but a little bit. And George is back at work, and this is where he gets a call with the estimate of how much it's going to cost.
And it's $250 a person.
A person.
Which is a lot even today. Like, that's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And at this point, the guest list is what, like 500 or something like that?
Yeah.
And
so
they need to cut that.
Doing that math, isn't that like $20,000 or something?
I'll put him on the spot to do that math. 17,000.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Give or take. But anyway, he's basically like,
honestly, like, it's pretty easy to spend a lot on a wedding. Our wedding was DIY, and like our most expensive thing was the photographer, and our wedding still ended up being about $10,000. And we were like cutting corners and stuff. Like, we didn't pay for a venue. Yeah, I did the math at one point, and it was a lot because we had to rent all the chairs, and like there was just a lot that we had to do.
Yeah, a lot of little things.
And even all that stuff.
That's including like our honeymoon.
Nope.
And I was like,
it was under 10,000, but it was close. I mean, my dress was $750.
I just blocked it all out with the price and like, what's happening?
I spent the money. You don't get to say yeah like that. I mean, your vest.
It was
and
totally
stuff.
worth it. I bought a vest. It was nice.
Yeah, and we got our people gifts.
We did get our people gifts.
Mm.
It was good.
It was good.
It was good.
It was a beautiful wedding.
Yeah. So anyway, we're cutting this list down to 150, and and then they're having conversations about. I think the son is like, can I? Like, mom said I can invite a friend. He's like, no, you can't. He's like, you won't eat. And he's like, that's a good idea. Who else won't eat? Who else can we get out to eat?
Yeah, he's just really stressed about the money the whole time.
And Annie walks in kind of during this whole thing, and she gets upset because of how stressed George is about cutting costs on her.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the part where you mentioned where a little bit later he walks in on her. She fell asleep on the couch, and she's like reading like how to save money on your wedding books and magazines and stuff.
And George he finds that and reads some of it out loud, and he's like, I have to stop.
Yeah.
So he decides to tone it down and stop pestering about the money, just let it go.
Yep. And then we get
Um,
this awesome scene, which I actually liked a lot, is when he finds his old tux up in the attic.
right.
And he
Which
puts
is
it on.
it's such a dad kind of
Well,
scene.
my note is in the year 2023,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, that tux actually works.
People aren't that picky these days.
Well, also,
but it was too small on him.
form fitting now, though, like almost too small form fitting is perfectly acceptable.
Right. But his suit did rip on the wedding
yeah,
day.
but that's for comic relief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That suit wouldn't have ripped that. It wasn't that small.
It was small.
The sleeves were down to his wrists. It's not like the sleeves were up his forearm. It was just tight on, a little tight on him. It wasn't even super tight. Like he was able to get the jacket buttoned up and everything.
He had to try pretty hard,
But
though.
still, I'm just saying. But you got also though in this part of the '90s, it was like like almost a baggy-ish suit was in.
It was like a 70s suit.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
but it just went with that one.
did.
He ended up getting the fake one. He just wore that one around.
Oh,
the
you're
house
right.
while
He
they
got
were
a
setting
different
up.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Because Franck saw it and he was like, we're going to deal with this. I can't do the accent.
Yeah, the planners show up, and then Eugene Levy shows up, and I just have a note on here. Eugene Levy.
Yeah,
Here.
because we like him.
Yeah.
He's the wedding singer.
Yeah, that's right. The wedding singer.
Yeah.
And then this is where George learns that they must take everything out of the house.
Yeah. Franck
Everything.
says everything must go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then they
and
have,
he explains that they have to empty the house in order to fit people in it. And it's just kind of like a funny conversation.
yeah, they had to move everything else. They had to move everything out and then bring a bunch of other stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, George's like, that doesn't make any sense.
It
He's
does,
like,
though. He's like, I'm the coordinator, just trust
Yeah.
me. And it's like real life wedding stuff.
and then they start having the conversation about the menu.
Mm-hmm.
And George is like, I want basically like, let's do this, and but then the chef is like very particular or something about what he'll cook.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Yeah, that part was really funny.
And then there's like swans running around the yard.
Yeah.
And then this is where the tux rips
Mhm.
because he's like, I forget what he's doing exactly, but he has to bend over for some reason. And then my next note is that this is again having to deal with the menu. And
No, Franck, tell Honk it's not okay. I want chicken.
yeah. The chef's name is Honk.
His name is Hank. His name is Hank.
But
He says it like that.
yeah, because that's how Frank says Hank. He says honk.
Yeah. That's like the funniest part of the whole movie, just the French accent. I love how they kind of become friends, though.
Yeah.
And I love so much just Steve Martin and Martin Short's relationship in real life and how they're still best friends today and they still have a TV show today together.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done a comedy special.
Yeah.
And we've just watched all of it because we love them. Of the two, though, Martin Short is definitely my favorite. There's just something about
Really?
him. He's so funny.
Because of the two, Steve Martin is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really funny. I like that. I like that we talked about that.
And then we get like an information overload shot
Right.
where
He's boiling over.
yeah,
He just
and
can't handle
like
it
everything's
anymore.
everything is kind of like moving in fast speed to him.
Yeah. It's all like
Yeah.
too much.
And then this is where we get the scene where he's at the store. There, he's like,
yeah,
I'll go to this.
he just wants to
Yeah.
leave and he goes to the store
Magic.
and he takes the hot dog buns out of the pack because they always mismatch the number of hot dogs in a package and the number of buns in a package, which honestly drives everybody crazy.
Yep.
And he freaks out over it and starts opening the buns and taking them out, and he gets chased around the store by security, or maybe it's just a
It's just somebody who
grocery
works.
guy.
Yeah, it's just like somebody who works there, and then he's like, he starts referring to himself
You
in
know,
the third
like
person.
Steve
while
Martin
he's arguing.
movies, there has to be a freak out scene.
Yeah,
That's just who he is.
he's referring to himself in the third person in the grocery store. And the guy's like, "Who's George Banks?"
Yeah.
Me. And then he gets arrested because of this whole situation. Which I find interesting, actually, now that we're kind of going over this, because there's a couple of scenes later is when he like was like, okay, I'm gonna chill about it.
Mhm.
And a couple of scenes later he has a freak out in the store over a couple hot dog
Well,
buns.
I mean, he's not talking to anybody. That shit got bottled up. So,
So he's arrested and he's in jail, and Nina comes to bail him out.
mhm.
And
And she makes him repeat after her. You actually like wrote down what he
I
had to say.
so
I, George Stanley
Mhm.
Banks, promise to pull it together and act my age and stop hyperventilating and rolling my eyes and unbuttoning buttons.
yeah, he would always like unbutton his buttons when he would get stressed or something like that.
Oh.
But there was more to it. But at this point, I'm like, yeah, I'm not writing this whole thing out.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
he had to agree.
His wife
to
is
it.
basically like, if you want me to bail you out of jail, you need to chill.
And then more basketball time with the fam. This is how this family bonds.
It's when basketball is their moment of peace
Yeah.
among the chaos.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's like his daughter-dad activity. That's what they do together.
Mhm.
That's when they get along. And doesn't he see her little again in that scene?
I think that's at the end.
That's later.
Yeah.
Okay. And they
Um,
talk, I think.
Yeah. And then fiance's, Brian's parents show up and they have a car for them.
Hmm.
I think right before this, though, is kind of like
At least it wasn't a house.
they're talking about some gifts, and George's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get your gift for you. I got you guys an awesome gift." And then so he goes away, and then the parents roll up like, "Got a car," and then George is like holding his like little gift, and he gets all kind of almost embarrassed. Which in my mind, I'm like, "Bro, you're paying for this whole wedding.
Hmm.
Like, there's no reason to, be bummed out if you got them a solid gift. Parents are filthy rich, and you're paying for the whole wedding.
Hmm. Yeah, just let him get a car. But I think he also feels like he's not good enough.
Yeah, I haven't made a note about that. He's bummed about the size of his gift when he's paying for the whole wedding.
Yeah.
Um,
But he feels like he's not doing enough too. Like he just feels
yeah,
he feels overlooked.
well, I think a lot of it is he wishes that he could do everything, and it wasn't such a concern.
Right.
I mean,
Which
owns
is
his
the
own shoe
reality
company.
of a lot of real life situations.
Honestly, though, I feel like this is a very like upper class family. Them themselves live in a very nice home.
Yeah, all of them do.
Yeah, they all, but the Banks family in particular,
Hmm.
George and Nina, and they got a very nice house. They got very nice cars.
This is in the 90s though, when they're like
owns-
trying to act like they don't have all the money when the house is huge
Yeah.
and like the
that's what
clothes
I'm saying.
are nice
He
and
owns apparently a pretty decent sized shoe company.
like
You know what I mean?
yeah. It's one of those weird 90s things though where like
There's no way that would more cost as much. I mean, even
well,
the 90s.
if the cake is $12,000, I can see how
No, I think the cake was like 2,500 or something.
it was a lot. No, it was a lot. Anyway, and think about her dress too. Like
They are in LA, but even then, though, the houses in LA, even in the 90s, that would have been.
Mm.
Anyway, let's move on.
we talk about money. We talk about money a lot lately.
Going through the invites. So this is when they're getting all the invites back in, all the people who are saying they're going.
The RSVPs.
The RSVPs, and they got a huge pile of yes and like no-nos. And
Everybody's coming.
And I think he makes a little comment like, "Anybody not gonna show up?" Like,
Yeah.
and then he goes tuck shopping, but he's using like a guy who could get things for him, right?
No, he's just being like, he's at the tailor's, and they pick out a suit for him and tell him it's Armani.
No, he gets the Armani. He gets the Armani suit from the guy from the store,
Right.
from his sidekick store. The guy who was like selling things to the ladies while they were working on their break. He's like, "Don't worry, George, they're on their break." He's like, "No, trust me, this is real Armani."
I must have missed
Because
that.
because it's a joke throughout the rest of the movie because everybody keeps calling his suit blue,
Mm-hmm.
and even Franck is like, "Oh, like Armani doesn't make a blue suit."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "No, this is Armani." And they're like, "No, it's not."
Mm-mm.
Basically.
Yeah, I mean, he got ripped off for it, basically.
And then there's another wedding prep montage where they're kind of getting everything finalized for the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all the gifts that are piling up.
Yeah, they get like a
And
lot
then
of presents.
The wedding's off.
At our wedding, we didn't get presents, mostly. I did, actually. Aaron K gave me some stuff. But we told our guests to give us money.
That's what we use for our honeymoon.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
We used it all. Because we went to Canada,
Well,
and it's $6 for a gallon of milk there.
and we were living together at that point. We already had everything for our house, for our home.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
we didn't need a new blender.
Yeah. We basically
So-
were like, your gift to us needs to be paying for our honeymoon because we can't afford it.
Basically.
And that's what happened. It was the way to go. And
Yeah.
it worked out.
And the wedding's off, and because Brian got her an insensitive gift for their wedding.
Oh yeah, he gave her a blender, and she's
Yeah.
mad about it because she's a feminist and she doesn't want to be told to be in the kitchen their whole marriage, basically.
Yeah.
So
For their 8th month anniversary. It wasn't a wedding gift. It was an 8th month anniversary gift. What it was.
I'm trying to decide if I would have been mad about this or not.
I think if you're celebrating getting a gift for an 8th month anniversary,
Yeah, we're just not those people.
yeah.
I think if you were like, hey, we've been together for 8 months, I got us a new blender, I would be stoked.
Yeah, but
I'd be like, yeah.
I mean, if it's a regular anniversary, or unless somebody
If
was
it was
like,
a
I
year-
really want this blender. If it was a year anniversary and you just surprised the person with a blender, I could see being upset.
Mm-hmm.
But an 8th month anniversary, that's like high school dating type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Anyway,
She was mad because it's like giving a vacuum for a gift.
yeah,
But Steve Martin goes to talk to the fiance,
George and Brian go out
and
for a
he's like,
drink.
look, man, you messed up. And he's like, I know, but I didn't mean it like that.
And see, George is thinking he could use this as an opportunity to get rid of him. But in the actual moment when they're talking, he just can't do it.
I
And
didn't really see it that way.
He says it.
He
He
does.
narrates it, that he's like, this is finally an opportunity to get rid of this guy.
I think this is the point in the movie where I'm like, this plot line of him being so annoyed is starting to be unbelievable to me. Like,
But this is the point though where he finally officially turns the corner. on it.
right.
Because
He comes around.
he's talking to Brian about the situation, and he's just like, he just can't do it. So I made a note saying George is a good guy.
Yeah.
Right.
He finally comes around.
Oh, it was the bank book. That's what it was in the house before. Because
That's what I said.
Oh, I didn't register that. Because then this is when Annie finds out that the bank book story true.
Mm-hmm.
Because right before that, Brian had told Annie about what happened at his parents' house, and she's like, "My dad would never do that. You're lying to me." So she's like, "He's a liar and he gives crappy gifts."
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, and then they start kissing like way too long.
Yeah, they make up at the bottom of the steps and they just start making out.
Yeah, and
then
he just
George
like
is just like-
slowly backs away.
Yeah, my next note was sorry, I'll just go upstairs while you two make out. Hey, the
Um,
wedding's back on. And the day before the big day, super cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
And we get this cute little scene of the younger brother, Maddie, practicing his walk down the aisle.
Right, it was really cute.
And then,
He's excited.
yeah, and George uses this opportunity to...
Was he the ring bearer?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think he might have walked down with the mom or something.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so George helps him. And it's one of those moments, too, where George is kind of like... George is sad that Annie's officially going to be, like, an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And officially out of the house. Like, she's packing up her room, all that stuff. But I think this is one of those moments, too, where he kind of gets like, okay, I still got a kid around the house to be a dad with and stuff,
Right. Now you can stop ignoring your second child.
Yeah. You do have another kid. It's not like you're going to be empty nesters after she gets married.
Yeah, that part kind of bugs me, how they just like ignore him almost the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like there. At one point, I think he crashes on his bike. And
George does make a point at this, though.
he does.
Yeah, he does make a point that they've been kind of ignoring him during this whole scene, whole thing, because Maddie does say, "Don't worry, Dad, no permanent damage done."
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do acknowledge that, which is good. It's fun that they acknowledge that and stuff.
Yeah. I really liked it when the kids said goodnight to each other. I thought that was super cute.
George grabs his heart.
Yeah. I like that part.
And then this is where we get the montage of the daughter growing up, where he like sees her like...
Right, this is the tearjerker part where
Yeah.
you're like, no, she's leaving.
Yeah,
You could
very
see his
scenes
point
of-
of view.
Mhm.
And you're seeing it kind of sink in for him too, and him come to the reality of what's happening in a more healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Because this whole time he's just been in denial mode.
they just don't make movies like they did back in the 90s.
I know, there's some things that are just like so great about it.
There is like...
There's some really genuine stuff.
The 90s were really good at just, having just kind of like a genuine, like kind of...
The early 2000s too, I think.
Heartfelt, genuine type movie.
Right,
don't
that
know,
don't
it's-
try too hard.
Yeah, they didn't try too hard, and...
They're just fun. The writing was good.
Mhm.
They're warm. They're just kind of cozy to watch. They're comfort movies.
Yeah, and I think that this is the part too where we get the last, like the daughter's outside shooting hoops again, and they have like their kind of like final talk
Mm-hmm.
before the big day and whatnot. And
You wrote she needs to work on her form.
yeah, she does. I'm like, bro, this is a family of hoopers. Her form was all over the place.
She
Okay,
like took him out and went through, though.
She didn't have that follow through.
You're so funny.
So I'm just saying.
He doesn't really play basketball. Yeah, so they're up in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
They have the heart-to-heart talk right before the wedding.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because like he didn't get to see her at the wedding reception, but they do have that moment the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And they, she calls afterwards. But it starts snowing on the wedding day in LA, which is like, okay, whatever. But they have to, like, all the flowers that they had laid out died.
Mm-hmm.
And so Franck is trying to figure all that out. They have to move everything inside, and everybody's, it's chaos, as always things are at the beginning of weddings. On our wedding day, neither of us ate hardly anything. And by the time we got to our hotel, we were absolutely starving.
Yeah.
And we ended up just kind of raiding. Our hotel had like a snack stash, and we kind of raided that and just like ate a lot of snacks on our wedding night.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We had a full dessert table, and I had one bite of our wedding cake, and that was it. I really wanted to try all those desserts, but they tell you plan time to eat at your wedding, and we were like, we'll be fine, we'll just eat, we'll eat while we talk to people. Don't do what we did. plan your meal at your wedding where you're like sitting down and people aren't bothering you for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But not bothering you, that's the wrong word. Because it was
Well, you're just so busy.
it was
during your
so
wedding.
much fun, but everyone wants to talk to you when you get when you're the couple. There's no time.
Yeah, you got to do the rounds, talk to everybody, and
You don't even, it's not even just the rounds. Like, even after we did the rounds, we still were just
it's
like,
just nonstop.
yeah.
Okay, so where are we at? Prepping the house. You just mentioned that.
Can I go on another tangent?
Go for it.
I just want to say how when we were planning our wedding, we were joking about getting a ring bear, like a bear to bear the wedding ring down the aisle. And then at the same time, How I Met Your Mother was on, and they did the ring bear thing like while we had been talking about doing that at our wedding. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like just kind of fun to see that happen after we'd been talking about it for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had a ring bear, and we were like, oh, now we don't have to do it because they did it in the show. Anyway, back to Father of the Bride. I like a good tangent.
Okay, so prepping the house after the snow. She'll never forget the way she looked.
Nina.
I wrote Gina. Nina.
Yeah. Nina
when
looked
she
very...
walked down the stairs, he just kind of there's like a slow motion moment with him looking,
which is really cute.
Yeah.
And then they go to the church and have the wedding.
This real quick. So while I was watching the movie, I had to pause on this part.
We watched it separately, by the way.
Yeah. I think I watched it while I was working. So I had to deal with some work stuff, so I paused on this scene, right? And it's an outside shot of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was working, I was kind of looking at this paused image, and the snow around the church is so obviously just like blobs of cotton or something like that, blobs of fabric placed around in random spots. I just thought it was funny because it was just so noticeably fake. It was like they barely even tried type fake.
Well, it's LA. No one believes there's really snow.
So yeah, time to go to church. The wedding dress.
What about the wedding dress?
I think that he sees her in the wedding dress. Like she's getting ready, and he like knocks on her. She's like,
he sees her first.
Yeah. And yeah, he's narrating. He's narrating through the whole thing, and everything's just happening so fast. I made a note too. Like, do people really smile that much at weddings? Because while everybody's walking down the aisle, while she's walking down the aisle, basically while everything's happening, everybody in the crowd just has huge smiles on their face.
That's true. I noticed your note too. You said, who are all these bridesmaids and why weren't they part of the planning at all? Pretty funny.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. They're probably all from college.
We didn't meet one of them, not even the maid of honor.
Yeah, she didn't really have
Nothing.
a maid of honor. I wonder if her mom was her matron of honor.
I think it was just a movie thing.
Yeah.
I just think it was like...
They're like, it's a big wedding party. Yeah. We had a big wedding party.
We did.
This is fun comparing our wedding to Father of the Bride.
We did have a big wedding party.
We had a very big
wedding party. That was
party.
kind of my doing too.
It was.
Yeah.
I wanted like us to have 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
And Sean, you were like, it has to be 6 each.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a huge wedding party.
Yeah.
Because you got so many brothers.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave anybody out if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I was kind of I was thinking of, during our wedding, I was thinking of everybody else. I was thinking about you first and foremost, but I was also thinking of everybody else, and like I didn't want to leave people out who I thought might want to, who I thought might be hurt if I did. So, yeah, I was like,
It was for the better.
it's like, this is what we're doing.
Everything turned out really great. You were very genteel the whole time.
Genteel?
Like gentlemanly, very sweet.
I mean, that's what one does, correct? On their wedding day? Oh. I've never been married before that, so.
You're cute.
Okay. George is worried about forgetting his line, walking her down the aisle.
All right, what was his line?
When they say, who gives away this?
Oh yeah, he just is supposed to say,
I do.
Yeah.
And he sits down and he kind of just has that final realization that his kid is grown.
She's a woman now.
And then, of course, it's a movie ceremony, so the whole thing lasts about 25 seconds.
They really are young, though. Like, I can kind of understand all his angst because she really, like, just left for college, you know? She's 20 years old.
Yeah.
We were 26 when we got married.
Yeah.
Or at least I was. Were you 27? You just turned 27.
Yeah, I would have just turned, yeah.
Yeah, because your birthday's in May and we got married in June.
Oh, you scrolled the page.
I did.
Where am I?
I got the thing. You may now kiss the bride.
And then it's time to party. Right? Time to party?
It's not a podcast episode if I don't sing, right? Or hum or something.
Yeah, kiss the bride. It's time to party. And so now the whole reception's going on, and George is getting kind of a little overwhelmed with how much is going on here, but he's also trying to get to Annie because he hasn't had an opportunity to talk to her yet.
It's such a real thing too, because at weddings everyone wants to talk to the bride and groom, and so they're just crowded the whole time. And at one point he tries to take a shortcut, and even when he did it, I was like, that's a bad idea.
Well, here's my thought process with this part. So he tries to just simply go out the back door. He's like, there's a door here. I would like to go out this door. His house, I'm sure he's very familiar with this door. Probably uses it on a regular basis. He cannot open this door. And he looks at them like, why can't I open this door? And they're basically like, because of the wedding. But in my head, it's like, did they like add a padlock to this door or something? Is there some weird thing that they did? Because
yeah, it's like they locked it, but he can't unlock it.
Yeah, why can't he unlock it from the inside of the house to get out?
Yeah.
Anyway, my brain went off on that for a few minutes.
Why can't he go out?
Yeah, why can't he get out his own back door? It's not like, yeah, anyway.
Right.
Cops show up.
He's almost to his daughter, and then the cops show up, and they're like, hey, we need you. So he goes outside.
They basically just jammed all the cars throughout the street.
Yeah.
Everywhere down the street, like in the middle of the street and everything. So it's just a giant row of jam-packed cars down the street. And
so they got to move all the cars, and they enlist the kids to do it.
Maddie and his little friend he was allowed to bring as long as he didn't eat. I think the kid.
They're literally like 8 years old.
Yeah, I think the kid even mentions too at that point. He's like, Mr. Banks, I haven't eaten anything.
So the kids move the cars, and then
they're having the time of their life. This is the greatest wedding they've ever been to.
Right. But George is missing the wedding because he's helping move the cars too.
Like he's missing like the
whole
bouquet
reception.
toss, the whole reception. Like he's missing everything.
Right. And you wrote, it's wild they didn't think about the parking, inviting that many people, but I think they had a valet that didn't come or something.
After,
because they say,
well, it was kind of a two-part thing because one thing was they did mention around that time that there was like a valet that didn't show up for whatever reason, but at the same time, there's no way they could accommodate for that many cars at their house, even if there was multiple valets.
Yeah. They should have rented a parking lot or something.
They should have. That would have been one of those logistical things that in reality, is a reason why you can't have the reception at your house. You have to get a venue, basically.
We had our reception at a house.
We had our reception at a house that had.
Well, it was outside.
It was, yeah, and they also had like
a lot of
like an
property.
acre of property for us to use.
Yeah.
It was a good. I don't know if it's a good amount of open space.
It was probably more than an acre.
Yeah, a bunch of open spots but even we did not invite nearly that many people.
That's true.
And we would have had
our wedding was like 100 total people.
Yeah, we would have had issues fitting any more than we did, basically.
That's true. We did not have
so they basically would have had to been parking people like 5 blocks down the road and having to run back and grab another car, park another 5-6 blocks. You know what I mean?
Right.
For street parking and stuff.
What the hell? Can you imagine going to a wedding and you park somewhere and then you go out and your car's not there and you have to go find it?
Well, then yeah, if somebody wanted to leave, okay, here's my, because if they're acting as valets, they'd have tickets. So it'd be like, here's my ticket for my car. The valet would have to freaking run a marathon to go grab that car.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyway, it's a movie thing.
Yeah, and then this is the part where, after the whole car thing, where we get the scene where she's actually thrown the bouquet. And doesn't he come in from upstairs? Like, she's like running out the front door and he's like starts walking down the stairs.
I can't remember.
Because she throws it from the stairs.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But he just can't get to her.
Yeah, he just can't get to her, and he's surveying the damage. We get a scene where he's just kind of bummed out because he didn't get to talk to her, and he's surveying the damage. Mess everywhere. And he's kind of talking to Nina about kind of how bummed out he is that he didn't really get to talk to her or anything. And then he gets a call from Annie at the airport. So he does get to talk to her, at least, and she acknowledges like they didn't get to see each other and everything, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but she lets him know she cares.
And then George and Nina dance in the mess of because they didn't get to dance or anything at the reception.
Right, he should have been hanging out with his wife and his daughter the whole time, but he missed it all.
Yep.
He paid for that huge wedding and then he missed it all.
So they shared
that
dance.
would suck.
They shared dance in the empty living room, and then we got the end.
Yeah, it pans out all cute and you see the whole backyard.
This is a movie that I remember liking for my childhood, and I still liked it.
Yeah, I actually had, it's kind of a lie that I hadn't seen it before. I had seen it once when I was like 6 years old.
You tell me this whole podcast episode was built on a throne of lies?
No. Because I really didn't remember anything, and when I did watch it, I remember getting bored, and I just like didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
And I was 6. I had no idea what was going on. Like I think I lost interest because the themes in this movie are so adult and they're about money, and I just had like no idea what was going on. So
fair enough.
Yeah. You gonna do your
well, now it's time for
Google Play reviews.
Google Play reviews. But Google Play has changed the way that they do all their video stuff now. Like, they don't have movies just on the regular Google Play Store anymore. Like, you have to go to Google TV now, and I can't find reviews on there. So maybe I'm missing something, but don't have any for this episode.
Oh.
No reviews.
Are there IMDb reviews?
Probably, but this is the Google Play review section.
You gotta do
This
something.
This isn't a IMDb review section.
Izzy wants out.
It's fine. You can wait.
She's looking at me like she has to poop.
We're almost done, Kat.
I'm sorry, this episode is kind of wonky, everybody.
Let me see if I can find some IMDb reviews. This is great for the audio listeners right now. See, the problem is, the reason why I don't use IMDb or anything like that is because people basically write like novels for
They're
reviews.
huge. Oh my gosh.
and Google Play,
They're
they would
short.
always be short. So
They're too
here
long.
I'll just read some of the titles of them.
Yeah, that sounds good.
8 out of 10 stars. Pretty good Steve Martin comedy. 10 out of 10. This is what love is all about. 7 out of 10. Daddy's Little Girl.
Mm-hmm.
9 out of 10. Some of Steve Martin's best work. 10 out of 10.
I think I
Underrated
agree with
classic.
that, actually.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie. And there's always... I honestly, like... Aside from this and Only Murders in the Building, there's always something that I get annoyed with in Steve Martin movies at some point.
Have you seen Bowfinger?
No.
Bowfinger. I think Bowfinger is his most underrated movie ever made.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should podcast that.
I think
It'll be our
it's
third
it's a little,
Steve Martin movie.
It's a little too new. It came out in like the late 90s. So we'd have to wait another like 6 years, I think.
Oh, well, maybe I'll just watch it then.
4 out of 10 stars. Paranoia of the Father of the Bride.
Yeah, that's accurate.
8 out of 10, a great wedding movie. 8 out of 10, this film hits differently when you're a dad. It kind of does.
Really?
Well, I've noticed after becoming a father that I do, whenever I watch a movie that's like a kid-parent relationship, I totally do see it differently than I did when I watched it as a kid.
Right?
You know?
You're seeing that adult perspective
Yeah.
now. You can see both sides.
Or there's even stuff where there's a sentimental value with like the parent, like in this with him, like envisioning her growing up and stuff. Where as a kid, you see that stuff and it doesn't really hit. But as an adult, and you've noticed like our son is 4 now, and you know sometimes we come across the old, you know, we kind of have that sometimes, right? So that kind of stuff definitely does hit more as an adult. 3 out of 10. It's a feel-good commercial, not a movie.
Feel good commercial for Nikes.
They're comparing it to the 1951, so maybe they're just old.
Mm.
And then, yeah, 10 out of 10. They could not have portrayed it better. People like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of 9s, a lot of 10s. 4 out of 10 liked it, except Franck.
Those bastards.
They hated Franck. They liked everything but Franck. 1 out of
No
10,
way.
Privilege of the Bride.
Privilege of the Bride. Yes, also true.
Anyway.
I like those titles. I'm glad that I made you read something.
And what about our 5-star rating?
Father the Bride, honestly, I don't know if I've given anything 5 stars yet. I think this movie for me is a solid 4 stars, which means I really, really like it. I think for something to be 5 stars for me, it needs to have blown my mind.
Yeah.
I need to be surprised by it. I need to be like wowed. Like, this is the most amazing, you know, like this is going to be one of my favorite movies now.
Mm-hmm.
This one's just almost there, but it's not quite 5 stars.
Yeah, this is a movie that I watched a handful of times when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, I had it on VHS, and when I go visit her, it's one of the movies. So I do have a lot of sentimental value with this movie, and
Lots of nostalgia.
a lot of nostalgia. Yeah, so I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Ignore me there. Fixing your hair.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's a.
You
just-
gave it 4?
Yeah, I give it a 4. It's just a feel good movie,
Yeah, it is.
you know. And 90s were great at those feel good movies.
Yeah.
And I love Steve Martin. What can I say? I might be a little biased towards Steve Martin, towards my Steve Martin rating. I forget what I gave My Blue Heaven.
I think we both liked it.
Yeah. Who's your favorite character?
I think my favorite character is Annie.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Why?
'Cause she's me.
Oh, My favorite character is George.
Really?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
he's mean.
Okay, so that makes you my dad.
No, I'm just mean in the sense of like, that's just the lens that I view the movie in now.
Mhm.
You know, from the point of view of the dad.
That's funny.
You know, I don't view it from the point of view of the kids.
I don't either, but I would hang out with Annie. She's cool.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and then remakes. Next section, remake. So yeah, this was the second film adaptation. The first being the 1951, which I mentioned before, which is based on a 1949 novel. The same name. Then they made a sequel, Father of the Bride 2, and then there was a little like mini Father of the Bride 3 that they did during the whole like COVID, like when they're kind of doing a bunch of like Zoom webcam reunion type things during COVID, like a handful.
Is that something we can watch?
Yeah, it's online.
Like on YouTube?
Somewhere. I don't know where it is exactly, but you can watch it. You can find it online.
That sounds fun.
I think it's only like 15
Was
minutes.
it like a fundraiser one?
Probably. A lot of those were.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then they made the 2002 HBO Max remake, which honestly just does not. I have zero interest in watching it. It just doesn't look appealing to me. Have you seen trailers or anything for that one, or know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there's one that came out last year, another remake.
Oh. A Father of the Bride?
Yeah.
With who in it?
It's crap, what's his name? Father of the Bride.
Also, we didn't mention in this movie something we both were noticing is that Steve Martin is supposed to be in his 40s in this movie, and he looks like he's 65.
Well, Steve Martin, he looked that way for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know.
But Diane Keaton looks really old too.
Well,
she does not look like she's in her 40s. She looks like she's in her 50s or 60s.
Yeah, but I think that was just kind of the 90s and 80s. I mean, people looked older than they do today just because of the style that they had, the hairstyles people rocked. And, you know what I mean? Like, you look at Cheers, and like when they started Cheers, Frasier was 29 years old.
He looks so old.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was just
29.
Yeah. The new one stars Andy Garcia. It's like it's a Cuban American version of the movie. And the only reason why I say it doesn't really interest me is one, I didn't really heard good things about it. But also, like I said, the only reason why I really liked this one to begin with, I shouldn't say the only reason, but it's just the 90s. I just had watched it. I don't know. It's Steve Martin.
It's great.
Yeah.
I like Frank. I think Frank might be my favorite character.
Oh, and there was also a TV series in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I forget how long it lasted. I probably should have noted that, but there was a TV series for a short time in the 60s. And what are we currently into now?
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Anna's crazy into Harry Potter at the moment. We recently finished his Dark Materials on HBO.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so good. I read the books. And it's a very good adaptation of the books. I loved the show.
It was good.
It was really good. We binged the last season, basically.
Yeah, we watched like 95% of it over the course of 2 nights last weekend. The Last of Us just came out.
Yeah, we were watching that.
Super into that.
It's scary, but I'll try and watch it with you.
We'll see how far she gets.
I made it through the first episode. Crazy. Sometimes, I mean, I've seen the games, so I kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I've seen parts of the games. Don't drink my water.
Not
Sean the cat.
I think they can see the cat.
This is a podcast.
For the audio listeners, there's a cat on the desk.
Trying to drink my water. Okay.
And anything else? Anna's super hyped up for Hogwarts Legacy. Our son bought a $100 game on Xbox today. That's cool. Cool.
You got it refunded.
Yeah, we were able to get it refunded.
But yeah, that did happen. Trying to play Call of Duty.
Servant. This is kind of the start. There's a bunch of stuff either starting up or about to start up, and it's kind of a fun time for entertainment stuff. I just saw Megan. Saw it in an empty theater by myself.
You liked it?
It was, yeah, I liked it. I had fun with it. It's like nothing groundbreaking or anything, but for an evil doll movie, it was really good. Like, I prefer to probably any Chucky I've ever seen or anything like that. So. And
I
yeah.
don't like that theme. The theme evil doll freaks me out.
See, I'm not, well, I don't really, I find it corny most of the time.
It freaks me out.
I don't necessarily, it does, I think the only real evil doll thing, there's two evil doll things that freaked me out. One is when I was younger and I watched the...
Izzy, stop. He's misbehaving on purpose.
And I watched the episode of Talking Tina, Twilight Zone episode. That
one's scary.
Which I would say Megan is more Talking Tina than Chucky. Probably.
No, thank you.
But, and then the 90s movie Tales from the Hood.
That has a doll in it?
There's one of the short stories is about these like what do you call the dolls that are controlled by the strings?
Marionettes.
Yeah, marionettes. Like this lady like collects these marionettes and stuff, and they end up like getting possessed by like certain souls or stuff through some voodoo curse or something. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but I loved Tales from the Hood when I was younger. It was like one of my favorite horror things to watch when I was a kid. And but that one freaked me out.
Did you ever watch So Weird? I used to really like that show.
I don't think so. Which one was that?
It was on Nickelodeon, I think.
No, I didn't watch much Nickelodeon when I was a kid.
It was cool. A weird show.
I grew up watching Married with Children.
It was kind of like Twilight Zone for kids.
Yeah, I was watching, instead of watching Twilight Zone for kids, I was watching Twilight Zone and X-Files and stuff.
Yeah.
So here's something that we didn't talk about at all.
What?
So this should be fun to talk about right now. What is going to be our next movie?
It's my turn. Whose turn is it?
Well, I guess technically it's my turn. But we kind of did this episode because it was like, you were like, hey, I'm going to watch Friday the Bride. And I was like, hey, let's podcast about that.
Yeah.
So I think this week's kind of like a up in the air type thing. So I think maybe we should just kind of like, let's talk this out real quick.
Okay. We'll choose it on the air.
Choose it on the spot. Even though that might be hard to do.
I have a list. If you hand me my phone, I can find it.
I don't know where your phone is.
It's right there.
Oh. But I kind of want to do something. I kind of want to do a heavy hitter.
What do you mean?
I want to do something that's kind of like...
There's been a couple that I thought would be like really epic, but then we watched them and they were so boring, and then we didn't finish them, and we were just like, we're not podcasting that, even though we said we were going to.
Well,
like that one David Bowie movie.
Oh yeah, I either want to do something that's like supposed to be like a super funny comedy, or something that's supposed to be like one of those like epic type classic movies that everybody's like one of the best of all time type movies that we haven't seen.
Okay.
You know, like a Lawrence of Arabia, even though that's like 4 hours long. So maybe not that one. But I don't know. What do you got on your list?
The extended version of Dances with Wolves.
Oh no. That is one where we talked about that might be a bonus thing that we do at some point, but because we both have seen it.
But we haven't seen the extended.
Haven't seen the extended, but I what else you got?
Breakfast at Tiffany's and Vertigo.
We didn't watch Breakfast at Tiffany's?
No, we haven't watched
We watched
that
Roman
together.
Holiday, right?
Yeah.
Vertigo, is that That's a
That's just a really famous old movie.
um master. Why can't I think of his name?
I don't know his
Classic horror director. Alfred
Oh.
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock,
Is that a
yeah.
Hitchcock movie?
I think so. Remains of the Day, Dazed and Confused, and Schindler's List.
Schindler's List is 93.
Mm-hmm.
We are in 2023 now. That's a heavy one, though. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
Nope. Never
Oh,
seen
man.
it. And it's Spielberg. It's supposed to be really good, but it'd probably be a long podcast episode.
That would be a heavy one.
Yeah.
But that is one of those movies.
It's one of those movies that like everybody should probably have seen, and
Yeah.
neither of us have.
Especially we're
Plus-
both pretty big Spielberg.
And we like Liam Neeson too. I want to watch Dazed and Confused.
You want to watch Dazed and Confused? Is that a 93 also?
Yeah.
Yeah, now that we're in 93, or now that we're in 2023, that unlocks. We're not being too particular of like, no, we have to pass a day when the movie came out. If it's 2023,
if it's
the movie
that
came
year.
out in 1993, it's
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
We can watch Dazed and Confused. Kind of interested to see how that movie kind of.
Have you seen it?
I watched it. I've seen it twice. Probably last time I watched it was maybe like 15, 16.
Oh. I've never seen it. The reason I want to watch it is because I read
Matthew McConaughey,
Matthew
Ben
McConaughey's
Affleck.
Autobiography that came out last year, and I really enjoyed it. And he talks about Dazed and Confused a little bit.
What was the movie that started his career, right?
Yep, it was his first movie, and he was supposed to have like one scene with lines, and they basically were like, "Okay, go do this scene and just like wing it."
Yeah.
And he came up with that. All right. Like that was his impromptu
I mean, he
kind of
doesn't.
thing, and they just liked it so much that they put him in the movie more.
Yeah, I mean, he's still not in the movie a lot.
And he got the
But-
gig because he met I can't remember exactly who it was. It was either the producer or the director. He just met them in a bar
You know
with
what?
a friend.
Let's do that one next.
Okay.
Because that could be fun, and I'm interested to see how a couple scenes of that movie hold up to the day. Because there are a couple kind of like, if I remember correctly, there's a couple scenes that are kind of like, might be kind of cringy to the day standards, or kind of like weird, yeah, outdated, but also kind of like
Not PC.
yeah. I could be wrong.
I'm down.
I'm trying to remember, but let's do that.
Stoner
and then
movie.
We'll count that as your movie.
Yeah.
And then the next one after that, obviously, I'll choose, and we'll start back up that
Wait, why are we counting it as my movie?
because it's on your list. Is that fine? Is that fair?
Yeah, I guess.
And it's it's an easier watch. Well, let's just do that.
It's lighthearted.
And we are going to end it here.
Is that it? We did the whole thing?
We did the whole thing. Remember, audio listeners, check out the YouTube link in the description if you want to watch, if you want to see us talk about it. You might see a cat jump on a lap or on a table or something. I don't know. Also, if you're seeing this on YouTube, there'll be a podcast link. If you want to follow the podcast, we're on everything. Should be. If we're not, let us know. But I'm pretty sure we're on everything. And yeah, that's it for this episode of Classic Movie Night.
Okay, real quick though, I just want to say, did you change into a black shirt on purpose because I was wearing a black shirt?
I didn't know you were wearing a black shirt.
We just matched on accident.
I did change into a black shirt because I was wearing like a sports shirt, and that's not something I like to wear when I stream.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wearing like a round the house cozy shirt.
You were wearing a blazer shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
But you changed
sports
into
team
black,
shirt.
and now I'm like, did you try to match me?
No, I generally wear neutral colors and I have a lot of black shirts.
Yeah.
Hey, we're match, huh?
Yeah.
That's so cute, guys. All right. Next week, Probably, realistically, will be 2 weeks from now.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We're moving.
It's going to be inconsistent, but the next movie that we will podcast about is
Dazed and Confused.
So,
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
bye.
Bye.